The wolf glass cut Isolde Varran's reflection away before the priestess finished her sentence. One moment she stood barefoot on the white stone floor of the moon court, wrists bound in silver thread, the forbidden moon curse at her throat dark beneath the hall's blue firelight. The next, the mirror behind the altar showed nothing where her body should have been. No face, no eyes, no girl, only a pale space in the shape of her absence. As if someone had cut her out years ago and forgotten to put the girl back. The priestess stopped speaking. Isolde did not move. She had learned long ago that fear looked too much like guilt when nobles were watching. So she kept her spine straight while the silver thread tightened around her wrists and the curse mark at her throat pulsed once, cold as buried moonlight. The wolf glass towered above her, framed in black bone and old silver. It did not show beauty. It did not show vanity. It showed what blood carried beneath skin. Noble wolves rose behind their humans as silver shapes. True mates appeared with soul lines woven between reflections. False bonds cracked. Weak blood blurred. Cursed blood, the priestesses said, showed rot. Isolde had been brought here to prove the court right. Lady Severine Arlo stood beside the altar in ceremonial white, one elegant hand resting on Alpha King Lucan Greyveil's arm. She looked flawless beneath her Luna circlet, pale gold hair braided with moon pearls, her expression gentle enough to make cruelty seem like duty. Every noble house in Greyveil had gathered to witness the cleansing of the cursed girl who had served too close to the royal wing. Cursed girl. They rarely used Isolde's name. The mark at her throat had appeared when she was 7, after 3 nights of fever under a dead moon. Since then, wolves went silent when she entered a room. Pups cried if her shadow crossed their cradles. Moon priests refused to bless water she touched. No pack claimed her. No family defended her. She belonged to the court only because unwanted things still had uses. Tonight, Severine had named that use. Let the wolf glass judge whether the curse has learned to imitate a soul, she had said. So they tied Isolde's wrists and placed her before the mirror. And now the mirror had erased her. Severine recovered first. There, she said too quickly. The glass rejects her. No reflection, no wolf, no lawful blood worth preserving. A guard stepped forward with the black shears used for curse cleansing. They were not meant to kill first. They cut away a person's right to pack shelter, moon protection, and name. After that, death usually came from winter, hunger, or wolves no longer required to show restraint. Isolde lifted her eyes to the mirror. The empty shape stared back. The mirror did not reflect her. It reflected darkness. Not empty darkness. Occupied darkness. Something inside that absence shifted so faintly she almost thought pain had invented it. A pressure behind the pale space, a breath trapped behind glass, a living thing hidden where her reflection should have been. Alpha King Lucan had not spoken. That was worse than condemnation. He stood beside Severine, tall and severe in black wolf fur and silver armor, his face carved into the stillness that had made rival alphas kneel. His eyes were pale gray, winter cold beneath the court flames. No one called Lucan merciful. No one called him cruel either. He was law with a heartbeat, and law had rarely been kind to girls like Isolde. Yet his gaze did not rest on Isolde's empty reflection. It rested on Severine's. Isolde saw it because she was the only one facing the glass. Severine's reflection stood perfect beside Lucan's white gown, Luna circlet, gentle smile. But behind her, where a Luna's wolf should have risen proud and radiant, there was only a thin silver veil. Not a wolf. A veil. Lucan's jaw tightened. Severine noticed his attention and curled her fingers around his arm. "My king, the court awaits your command." The guard lifted the black shears. Isolde's pulse struck hard against her ribs. If the shears closed, she would lose even the small protections that came with being useful. She would become a cursed thing outside law, and every wolf in Greyveil would be allowed to treat her as prey. "If I have no reflection," she said, "then what are you cutting?" The guard paused. The question was small. Desperate, perhaps. But it belonged to her. A few nobles shifted. The priestess frowned. Severine's smile thinned. "Your curse," Severine said. "Then let the glass show it." The words left Isolde before fear could bury them. Lucan looked at her fully then. Not with pity. With the sharp attention of a predator hearing a locked door open in the dark. Severine's voice cooled. "Curses do not make demands." "No," Isolde said. though her wrists burned under the silver thread. But trials require evidence. The wolf glass darkened. The hall's blue flames bent toward it. Lucan stepped down from the altar. Severine's hand slipped from his arm. "Do not move her closer." Isolde heard the fear beneath the command. So did Lucan. He looked at Severine. Why not? The question was quiet. The danger inside it was not. Severine recovered quickly. Because cursed blood corrupts old mirrors when provoked. End the rite while the glass still rejects her. Lucan did not answer. He stopped beside Isolde, close enough that she smelled winter pine, steel, and something darker beneath his skin, restless wolf, caged too long. He did not touch her. His eyes moved from the curse mark on her throat to the pale absence in the glass. "What did you ask it to show?" he said. Isolde swallowed. "The truth." The wolf glass cracked, not across its surface, through its depth. A black line opened inside the mirror like a path splitting moonlit water. The pale space where Isolde's reflection should have stood filled with silver mist. Behind that missing shape, something moved. A wolf. Huge, dark, crowned in pale moonfire. The court went silent in the way forests go silent before a predator steps into snow. The wolf in the mirror was not hers. Isolde knew that with a certainty deeper than fear. It was too vast, too scarred, too royal in the brutal line of its head. A broken silver chain circled its throat. A wound of black light burned over its heart. Lucan made a sound under his breath. The wolf lowered its head. Not to Lucan. To the empty space where Isolde's reflection should have been. Then it bent its front legs and kneeled behind her. The black shears fell from the guard's hand and struck the stone. Severine went white. Lucan stared at the mirror as if the glass had opened his chest in public. Isolde looked from the kneeling wolf to the Alpha King beside her, and the cold in her body changed shape. Not hope, not safety, something more dangerous. A question with teeth. Severine stepped forward. The mirror has been tainted. Remove the cursed girl from the glass. The silver thread around Isolde's wrists tightened until blood warmed her palms. Lucan turned toward Severine, but Isolde spoke first. No. The word shook. It still held. She faced the wolf glass, the kneeling royal wolf, and the occupied darkness where her own reflection should have been. "If that is not my reflection," she said, "then whose reflection has been living inside mine?" The kneeling wolf lifted its head. Inside the mirror, its pale eyes opened, and in Lucan's own voice it answered, "Mine." The wolf glass had not shown Lucan's wolf choosing Isolde. It had shown where his wolf had been hidden. The word "mine" hung inside the mirror like a chain pulled tight. It did not sound like a claim. It did not sound proud, possessive, or victorious. It sounded hoarse from years of being trapped behind glass, spoken through a mouth that had not been allowed to howl. Isolde stared at the kneeling wolf in the mirror. Its pale eyes were fixed on the empty place where her reflection should have stood. Not on her body, not on the curse mark at her throat, on her absence. On the pale, occupied darkness shaped like a girl the world had forgotten to put back. Something inside her recoiled. "I am not yours," she said. The silver thread around her wrists tightened until fresh blood slicked her palms. The court heard the defiance and shifted. But Isolde did not look away from the mirror. She had been called cursed, hollow, moon-rotted, unclaimed. She would not let even a wounded royal wolf turn her into another possession. The wolf's ears flattened. The wolf glass answered for it. "Not girl." The words appeared across the mirror's depth in a ripple of black moonlight. "Door." Lucan went still beside her. Isolde felt the word land somewhere beneath her skin, in the same cold place where her reflection should have lived. Door. Not mate, not Luna, not chosen. A door did not belong to itself in a palace full of keys. A door could be opened. A door could be sealed. A door could be used by anyone who had stolen the key. Lady Severine moved at once. "Enough," she said. The sweetness had vanished from her voice. "The glass is speaking through corruption. Remove her." Two guards stepped forward. Lucan lifted one hand. They stopped. It should have been absolute. Alpha command carried through blood and bone. Men obeyed it before thought. Wolves lowered their heads to it. But this time the order did not fill the room. It broke halfway across the floor. The wolf glass flashed white. A cut opened across Lucan's chest. Not flesh alone. Reflection. The silver armor over his heart split without a blade touching it, and beneath the black cloth, a glowing chain mark appeared around his throat in the mirror. In the real hall, Lucan staggered, one hand braced on the altar stone. In the glass, his reflection remained standing, but there was no wolf behind it. Only an empty chain running from his throat into Isolde's missing shape. The court saw. So did Severine. For the first time, terror crossed her face before she could dress it as dignity. Isolde's breath caught. Your command failed. Lucan's jaw tightened. Blood darkened the cloth at his chest, but he did not hide the wound. Because my reflection is not wholly mine. The mirror's surface trembled. Severine stepped between them, her Luna circlet blazing with pale light. My king, do not answer a cursed girl in front of court. She is provoking the glass. No, Isolde said quietly. You are afraid I will ask the right question. Severine's eyes cut to her. Lucan turned his head, pain sharp across his face. Ask it. Isolde looked at him. The same Alpha King who had let her be dragged before the glass. The same man whose silence had nearly cost her name, shelter, and life. Whatever suspicion had driven him here, he had placed her under the shears to test it. That truth stood between them like winter iron. You ordered this trial, she said. Lucan did not deny it. Severine seized the silence. He ordered justice. Isolde ignored her. Why? Lucan's gaze moved to Severine's reflection. The silver haze behind the false Luna shimmered. I suspected her reflection, he said. For months, the glass showed no wolf behind her, only a veil. A tremor moved through the court. Severine's face hardened. You doubted your Luna before servants? Lucan's mouth tightened. I doubted the right that named you. Isolde felt the cut of it before he finished. She understood too quickly. So you used me to open the mirror. Lucan looked back at her. His eyes did not soften. That would have made it worse. He let the accusation strike him. Yes? The word landed cleanly. Not apology. Confession. Isolde's throat burned. Then answer as witness, not king. The wolf glass darkened in approval. Lucan lowered his head once. Not a bow, not yet, but a surrender of rank before evidence. As witness. The mirror opened. Not outward. Backward. The moon court vanished into silver depth, replaced by a memory soaked in dead moonlight. Isolde saw a smaller chamber beneath the temple, the walls lined with shards of old mirrors. A child knelt in the center, 7 years old, black hair tangled from fever. The forbidden moon mark newly burned at her throat. Isolde stopped breathing. She knew that child. She did not remember being her. Around the child stood moon priests in bone-white masks. Severine was there too, younger, not yet crowned with Luna pearls, but already beautiful in the cold, watchful way of knives left on silk. Beside her lay a great wolf shape made of silver smoke and black wounds, chained through the heart. Lucan's wolf. Not kneeling then. Bleeding. One priest whispered, The Alpha Heir's wolf will not accept the veil. It keeps returning to him. Severine looked down at the little girl. Then place it where no one will look. The priest touched the child's reflection in a basin of black glass. The reflection screamed. Isolde did not. In the memory, the little girl's face peeled away from the water like moonskin being lifted from bone. Her body remained kneeling. Her eyes remained open. But the mirror self was cut free, pale and trembling, while the child went suddenly still, as if a candle inside her had been snuffed. Lucan made a sound beside Isolde, low and broken. Severine's silver haze in the present began to tear, thread by thread. The veil behind her reflection was not empty power. It was woven from Isolde's missing reflection, stretched thin over a place where no wolf stood. Severine had not stolen a crown. She had worn Isolde's absence until the court called it grace. Isolde looked at the curse mark at her throat. It was glowing now, not like rot, like a scar that had finally found the blade that made it. The mark, she whispered. The wolf glass answered across the memory. Reflection scar, not curse. The memory shifted. The priests dragged Lucan's wounded wolf toward the hollow left behind in Isolde's reflection. The wolf fought them until it saw the child's empty mirror, self-bleeding beside the basin. Then it went still, not obedient, horrified. Severine leaned close to the basin. If the girl lives, she remains a door. If she dies, the wolf stays sealed. Isolde's blood went cold. That was why Severine had pushed the shears forward. Not because Isolde was cursed, because if her absence returned, Lucan's wolf would return with it. The memory cracked. Back in the moon court, Severine's veil tore open. Beneath it was not a stolen bond. It was Isolde's missing face. Pale, silent, trapped behind Severine like a mask forced to smile. Isolde took one step toward the glass, though the silver thread cut deeper into her wrists. "Why me?" she asked. The mirror did not return her reflection. It returned the night someone traded it for the king's wolf. Severine's veil tore wider, and Isolde's missing face opened its eyes behind her. The face did not look like a reflection should. It did not mimic Isolde's breath. It did not follow the turn of her head or the tremble in her bound wrists. It hung behind Severine inside the wolf glass, pale and silent, wearing Isolde's stolen features like a girl trapped beneath ice. Its eyes were open, but empty of command. Empty of life. Empty in the way a room becomes empty after someone takes the door and leaves the walls standing. Isolde felt the opening in her chest before she understood it. Something that belonged to her had awakened in another woman's shadow. The silver thread around her wrists tightened until blood slid between her fingers. The wolf glass did not free her. It watched. It had the cruelty of old things. It believed revelation was the same as justice. It had shown the crime, but showing was not mercy. Mirrors did not save girls. They only reflected what others had done. Severine lifted one hand toward her torn veil. The missing face behind her flinched. Not from touch. From ownership. Containment law, Severine said. The words struck the moon court like a blade laid flat against the throat. The priestess at the altar went still. The guards lowered their shears but did not retreat. The nobles who had been staring at the torn reflection straightened at the sound of law, as if law could make horror respectable again. Severine turned from the mirror, with her composure rebuilt from frost. If the cursed girl is confirmed as a reflection door containing royal wolf, soul, she must be sealed, purified, or ended before the contained beast returns unstable to the alpha line. Isolde stared at her. "You mean killed?" "I mean preserved from becoming the wound that destroys a kingdom." "No," Isolde said. "You mean killed slowly enough to call it ritual." Lucan moved. His command filled his chest before it could become sound. Isolde felt it gather, immense and dangerous, the force that made wolves bow and armies obey. "Release her." The words crossed half the hall, then broke. The wolf glass flashed black. Lucan staggered as the reflection cut across his chest opened wider. In the mirror, the chain at his throat pulled tight, running not into his body, but into Isolde's missing face behind Severine. His wolf, still kneeling in the occupied absence, lifted its head and strained against a silver muzzle that had not been visible before. Lucan's command had failed again, because the wolf that should have carried it was still behind the glass. Severine's mouth curved, but only slightly. "You see, my king? Your authority weakens near her. The door must be closed." Lucan gripped the altar stone hard enough to crack the edge. Blood darkened the torn cloth over his chest. He looked at Isolde, and for the first time the court saw something worse than guilt on the Alpha King's face. They saw uncertainty, not weakness, the terror of a man realizing he had aimed power at the wrong wound. Isolde did not let him hide inside it. "You knew something was wrong with her, right?" she said. Lucan's jaw tightened. The missing face behind Severine watched him too. "Yes," he said. Severine's eyes sharpened. "Careful." Lucan did not look at her. For 6 months, the wolf glass showed no wolf behind Severine, only a veil. My own wolf stopped answering during council rites. My command weakened near temple mirrors. I ordered this trial because I believed your curse might force the glass to reveal what she hid. Isolde's throat burned. Again, used as evidence, used as bait, used as a door. "And did you know I was the prison?" she asked. No. The answer came fast enough to be true. It was still not enough. Isolde stepped toward him until the silver thread cut deeper into her wrists. "You did not need to know the shape of the knife to put me under it." Lucan lowered his eyes. The court felt it. The Alpha King did not bow. Not fully. But something in him yielded before witness. And that mattered because everyone in the moon court knew Lucan Greyveil had bent to no one since the old war. "I placed you before the glass," he said. "That debt is mine." Severine cut in. "The debt is the kingdom's. He did what a king must do." Isolde turned on her. "No." Her voice shook, but it did not break. "He used my pain to open a truth. You used my absence to wear grace." The wolf glass darkened in approval. The stolen face behind Severine blinked once. A tear slid down its cheek. Not Severine's. Isolde's. The sight struck Isolde so deeply that she nearly reached toward the mirror. But if she touched it now, Severine would call it corruption. The priestess would seal her. Lucan would try to intervene, fail, and bleed, for a command his wolf could not carry. So Isolde chose a question instead of a wound. Show who ordered the trade. Severine went still. "No," she said. The wolf glass opened anyway. The memory beneath the temple sharpened. The 7-year-old Isolde knelt before the black glass basin, her stolen mirror face trembling above the water. Lucan's wounded wolf lay chained beside her, silver smoke bleeding from its throat. Severine stood young and watchful near the basin, but this time the memory widened beyond her. An older man stood in the chamber, tall, crowned in wolfbone. His gray hair fell over a face carved by rule and fear. Around his shoulders hung the black mantle of the dead Alpha line. Lucan's father, King Alaric Greyveil. The living court seemed to inhale all at once, but Isolde did not turn. She kept her eyes on the memory because she understood now. The first criminal was rarely the last hand holding the blade. Alaric looked down at the wounded wolf. "My son's beast refuses the Luna chosen for the throne." A masked priest bowed. "The wolf remembers the soul pair hidden by the old moon. Then remove its memory. It will return to him." Alaric's gaze moved to the fevered child kneeling by the basin. "Not if it is placed in something no one will protect." Young Severine looked at him then, not frightened, but hungry for permission. "The cursed girl?" she asked. "The forgotten girl," Alaric corrected. "Cursed things are watched. Forgotten things are useful." Severine smiled then, not because she understood cruelty, but because she had been handed a method. Isolde felt the words like cold water poured into her bones. Lucan made a broken sound beside her. The memory turned darker. Alaric pressed his signet ring into the basin. Moonlight blackened. The priest cut Isolde's reflection from the water, and Severine wove it into a veil with hands too steady for innocence. Then Lucan's wolf was dragged toward the hollow left behind. The wolf fought until it saw the child's empty face. Then it stopped. Not because it accepted the prison, because it would not tear through a child to escape. In the present, Isolde looked at the kneeling wolf in the glass. "You stayed because leaving would kill me." The wolf's pale eyes closed. Lucan's voice was low, ruined. "Father did this." Severine smiled through panic. "Your father saved your reign. I maintained what he built. You wore her face. I wore what the kingdom required." Isolde stepped closer to the mirror. "I am not your door. I am the girl you cut into one." The wolf glass shuddered. The missing face behind Severine opened its mouth at last. But the voice that came through was not Isolde's. It was Lucan's wolf, speaking from the occupied absence. "Do not open me through her blood." The silver muzzle cracked. "Open what they buried beside me." The wolf glass split beneath Isolde's missing face. And behind Lucan's chained wolf, another girl's reflection was still alive. The girl buried beside Lucan's wolf reached through the glass and touched Isolde's missing face from the inside. The touch did not break the mirror. It broke the silence around it. Silver ripples spread beneath the surface of the wolf glass, bending the moon court into long, pale shapes. Severine's torn veil fluttered like skin caught on a hook. Behind it, Isolde's stolen face shivered beneath the faceless girl's hand. Not free. Not yet. But aware in a way it had not been before, as if one prisoner had found another in the dark and pressed her palm to the wall between them. Isolde felt the touch in her own cheek. Cold, gentle, terrifying. The second girl had no face at all. Where her eyes, mouth, and nose should have been, there was only smooth, moonlit emptiness, like a reflection erased so thoroughly the mirror no longer remembered what to put back. Her hair floated around her shoulders in dark strands. Her hands were thin and silver at the edges. She did not speak. Instead, The glass opened a memory. Not the temple chamber, a corridor of mirrors. One after another, girls stood before the wolf glass across the years. A kitchen child with flour on her sleeves. A noble ward in a torn blue dress. A mute acolyte with prayer beads wrapped around her fingers. A girl with no scent. A girl with white hair. A girl whose reflection turned toward Lucan's chained wolf and reached for him before the priest cut her wrists over the basin. Blood touched glass. The door opened. The girl vanished into the mirror. Lucan's wolf howled soundlessly as each reflection shattered. Isolde's stomach turned. "They opened them with blood," she whispered. The kneeling wolf inside the glass strained against its muzzle. Its pale eyes burned through the depth of the mirror and locked on Isolde. "Do not open me through her blood," it said again, rougher this time. Blood makes the door hungry. Severine moved before Isolde could answer. "Seal the glass." The priestess at the altar raised both hands. Blue moonfire gathered along her fingers, but Lucan stepped between her and the mirror. His command would fail. They all knew it now. His wolf was not fully with him. His authority broke near the glass. But he did not use command this time. He used his body. The priestess froze. Lucan's chest still bled where the mirror had cut him. The chain mark glowed around his throat in the glass, dragging toward Isolde's stolen face. He looked at the faceless girl, then at the memories of the girls who had been opened and consumed before Isolde. "What opens it, if not blood?" Isolde asked. The wolf glass answered in a single word across its dark surface. "Nama." The word struck Severine like a slap. Her hand flew to the Luna circlet on her brow. Isolde saw it then, the smallest crack in the polished grace. Not fear of death, fear of being named, fear of something that did not belong to her rising through silver and moonlight to take back shape. The faceless girl pressed her palm harder against Isolde's missing face. Another memory opened. A temple record chamber. Shelves of moonskin parchment. A girl kneeling while priests scraped ink from a silver book. Not blood this time. Not chains. A name being lifted letter by letter from the page until the girl's face blurred in every mirror around her. Young Severine stood nearby, watching. She was younger than in the first memory, almost a child herself, wearing no Luna pearls yet. But her eyes were already fixed on what power could do when no one protected the powerless. A priest held up the erased name. "If the name is removed," he said, "her reflection cannot return to itself." Young Severine looked toward the faceless girl. "And the name? The rite requires a vessel." Severine did not hesitate. "Give it to me." The memory trembled. In the present, Severine's circlet flared. Lucan turned slowly toward her. "What name did you take?" Severine's lips parted, but no answer came. The wolf glass did not wait. Silver letters began to crawl beneath the surface of Severine's Luna circlet, glowing one by one as if the metal had become wet ink. Severine clawed at it, but the circlet would not come free. The priestess whispered, "My lady." "Stop it," Severine snapped. Lucan took one step toward the glass. This time, the mirror cut him before he reached it. A line of silver opened across his palm. He looked down, then understood. The glass would not accept command. It would not accept blood. It wanted a name given willingly under witness. He looked at Isolde, not asking her to bleed, not asking her to save his wolf through her pain. "What does it cost?" he asked the glass. The answer formed slowly. Royal name for buried name. The moon court stilled. Lucan's royal name was not the name people spoke in hallways. It was the name sealed beneath his coronation, bound to his right to command wolves, armies, borders, and law. Giving it to the glass would not kill him. It would weaken his throne in front of every noble, waiting for proof that he could no longer rule. Severine saw the cost and smiled through panic. "You cannot. Without the royal name, your command fractures. Rival alphas will smell weakness before dawn." Lucan looked at Isolde. She hated that part of her wanted him to choose correctly. She hated more that he had failed enough times for the choice to matter. "You do not get to spend your name and call it payment for mine," she said. His gaze held hers. "I know. Then why give it?" "Because the buried girl is not yours to rescue alone." His voice roughened. "And because I should have paid before you bled." The answer did not heal anything. but it did not steal from her either. Isolde looked at the faceless girl in the glass. "Do you want his name?" The girl touched the mirror from within. A yes moved through the silver, soft as breath. Lucan stepped forward and placed his bleeding palm against the wolf glass. Not where Isolde's stolen face hung. Beside it, I, Lucan Oral Greyvale, son of Alaric, Alpha King by blood and law, place my royal name under witness until the buried name is returned. The court shook. Not the floor. The hierarchy inside it. Every wolf in the hall lowered its head, not in worship, but under the weight of a king willingly placing part of his command into judgment. The circlet on Severine's brow cracked. She screamed then, not in pain, but rage. The wolf glass wrote the buried girl's name across Severine's Luna circlet. And the name was not Severine. The Luna circlet burned through Severine's hair before she could tear it off. Silver letters sank into the metal, bright and merciless, writing a name the moon court had buried so deeply even the mirrors had learned to look away. Severine clawed at the circlet with both hands. Moon pearls snapped loose and scattered across the white stone floor like frozen tears. Lucan's royal name bled against the wolf glass. The moment he gave it, every wolf in the hall felt the cost. Guards staggered. Nobles clutched at their throats. The blue flames along the walls bent low, as if the old moon itself had leaned closer to watch a king place part of his command under judgment. Isolde did not move toward him. She wanted to. That was the cruelest part. He had paid. Not with words. Not with explanation. With the name beneath his crown, the part of him that made armies obey and rival alphas hesitate. But the same hand pressed to the glass had signed the trial that almost cut her from law. Payment was not pardon. The wolf glass understood. It did not soften its light. The faceless girl inside the mirror lifted her head. The name burned brighter across Severine's circlet. Aurelia Vos. The court seemed to lose breath. Not because the name was beautiful, because it was known. An old noblewoman near the third pillar covered her mouth. One of the moon priests dropped his prayer chain. A young alpha muttered. Voss died out. Severine turned on them with wild eyes. A dead house. A dead girl. A useless name. The circlet tightened. A silver line cut across Severine's brow, not deep enough to kill, only enough to make the lie bleed. Inside the wolf glass, the faceless girl pressed her palm against Isolde's stolen face, and the mirror answered with another memory. Not the chamber of blood, not the basin where Isolde's reflection had been cut. This was a nursery under moonlight. A child lay in a cradle carved with wolf vines, her eyes open, her tiny hand resting on a white wolf cub sleeping beside her. A woman in a dark blue gown leaned over the cradle, singing softly. Her face resembled the faceless girl in the glass, except alive, warm, whole. On the wall behind them hung the crest of House Voss, a silver wolf looking into a mirror and finding two moons. Then the door opened. King Alaric entered with temple priests at his back. The woman stood between them and the cradle. "You swore the child would be protected." Alaric did not look at the baby. He looked at the mirror above the cradle, where the infant's reflection showed something impossible. Not one wolf, but two soul. Lines crossing through the old moon mark. The Voss line reveals false pairings, he said. No throne survives a house that can show the mate behind a political bond. The woman's face went white. In the present, Isolde's throat tightened. Glass, mate. The word came from her before the mirror wrote it. The wolf glass darkened in recognition. The memory continued. The priest lifted the child from the cradle. The white wolf cub woke and snapped at them, but a silver net fell over it. The woman screamed the child's name, Aurelia. The mirror shook. Inside the glass, the faceless girl trembled, as the sound of her own name reached her for the first time in years. Severine's hands dropped from the circlet. Her panic changed shape. Not fear now. Hatred. You think she was innocent, she said? House Voss would have ruined every alliance in the north. They could expose any Luna chosen for peace, any mate bond redirected to stop war, any marriage made to keep packs from slaughtering each other. Isolde stared at her. So you stole her name. I was given it, by men who needed a prettier lie. Severine struck her. The blow snapped Isolde's head to the side. Lucan moved instantly, but the wolf glass cut a silver line across his palm, stopping him before he crossed the space. Not punishment. Warning. Isolde tasted blood. Slowly, she turned back. She did not look at Lucan. She looked at Severine. "Do that again," Isolde said, voice low, "and let the glass decide which of us is cursed." Severine's eyes flashed. She raised her hand again. The circlet burned. She screamed and dropped to one knee. The name Aurelia Voss blazed across her brow, then sank through the silver and into her reflection. Behind Severine, the stolen veil thinned. Isolde's missing face remained trapped there, but now the faceless girl stood beside it, one hand on the veil, one hand reaching toward her own name. Lucan forced himself still. Isolde saw the restraint, the blood on his palm, the way his command wanted to rise and could not be trusted near the mirror. He was learning too late, but he was learning in front of everyone. "What does Aurelia's name open?" Isolde asked. The wolf glass answered. "First witness." The words rippled across the mirror. Severine shook her head hard. "No." Lucan's voice cut low. "What did you do to her?" Severine laughed once, sharp and broken. "I survived her." The memory shifted. A younger Severine stood in the temple record chamber beside a crying girl whose face was already fading from every mirror. Aurelia Voss, perhaps 12, held her own name in both hands as silver letters bled from the record book into the air. Young Severine watched her, not with pity, with hunger and envy so naked it made Isolde's skin crawl. "They chose you because your face pleased the court," young Aurelia whispered. "But a Luna veil cannot grow a wolf." Young Severine's mouth trembled. Aurelia lifted her fading face. "Give my name back. I will speak for you. I will tell them you were used too." For one breath, young Severine looked like a girl who might still choose differently. Then a priest placed the silver circlet in her hands. "If she speaks," he said, "you return to nothing." Young Severine closed her fingers around the circlet. "No," she whispered. Then she pressed it onto her head. Aurelia's name tore out of her throat and burned into the metal. The memory shattered. In the moon court, Severine rose slowly, shaking with fury and shame. "Do not make me the monster alone. Every court wants a Luna it can control. Every king wants a bond that obeys politics until passion becomes convenient." Lucan's face hardened. "I did not want this." "No," Severine said. "You wanted not to know." That struck him. He saw le felted land. "Good. Let him carry that too." The wolf glass brightened around Aurelia's faceless reflection. Her hand pressed through the silver surface, not fully, just enough for her fingertips to emerge like moonlit glass. Isolde looked at her. "What do you need?" Aurelia's erased mouth did not move, but the name on Severine's circlet answered in a whisper. "Witness." Isolde understood. Not rescue, not revenge, not blood. "Witness." She stepped toward the glass. Lucan's voice was rough. "Isolde, if you touch it." She stopped him with a look. He closed his mouth. This choice was hers. Isolde lifted her bound wrists and pressed her bleeding palms not to the glass, but to the silver thread cutting her. She pulled. The thread snapped. Blood ran down her hands, but she did not give it to the mirror. She gave it to herself, rubbing it across the empty space where her reflection should have appeared. "I witness Aurelia Voss," Isolde said. "Not as Severine's name, not as temple property, not as a dead house." The wolf glass trembled. "I witness her as the girl erased before me." Aurelia's faceless head lifted. The circlet on Severine's brow split down the center, and from inside the broken silver, Aurelia's stolen voice finally screamed her own name. Aurelia's stolen voice did not scream like a girl begging to be saved. It screamed like a witness returning to court. The sound tore through the moon court, high and silver and old with grief. Every mirror shard in the temple walls flashed white. The blue flames snapped low. The white stone floor split in thin lines beneath Severine's knees, and the broken Luna circlet on her brow opened like a cracked moon. "Aurelia Voss." The name rang again from the glass. This time, every wolf in the hall heard it. Not with ears, with blood. Nobles staggered as soul lines flickered behind their reflections. Some lines burned clean, some twisted toward spouses who were not true mates. Some vanished behind political rings, treaty marks, and temple veils. The wolf glass did not reveal all of them fully. Not yet. It only let the court feel what House Voss had been murdered for knowing. False pairings could be hidden, but not forever. Severine pressed both hands to the broken circlet, trying to hold the pieces together. "Stop her!" No one moved. The priestess did. She lifted the black shears from the altar floor and drove them toward Isolde's throat. Lucan caught her wrist. The command in him still fractured near the glass, but his hand did not. The priestess gasped as his fingers locked around her arm. The shears hovered a breath from Isolde's curse mark. Reflection scar. Not curse. Lucan looked at the black blades, then at Isolde's throat. His face turned cold in a way that made even the guards step back. "How many girls did these cut?" he asked. The priestess said nothing. The wolf glass answered. Its surface darkened, and behind Isolde's missing face, more reflections opened their eyes. Girls without names, girls without mouths. Girls whose faces had been peeled from glass and given to rites, veils, and obedient lunas. Not all were dead. That was worse. Some watched from inside old mirrors across the kingdom, still aware enough to know they had been used. Isolde felt their attention turn toward her. Not begging, waiting. Aurelia's hand remained partly through the glass, fingers bright with moonlight. Her face had not returned, but the shape of it was beginning to form in the silver cheekbone, brow, the curve of a mouth still torn by silence. Isolde's own missing face stayed behind Severine, trapped in the veil that had made her look graceful all these years. 2 stolen girls. 1 mirror. 1 alpha king bleeding because he had finally stopped asking the wrong person to pay first. Lucan released the priestess only to take the black shears from her hand. He did not break them with rage. He placed them on the altar, blade open, handle facing the court. "By witness law," he said, voice rough. "These are evidence." Severine laughed bitterly. "You cannot invoke witness law while your royal name sits inside the glass." "I know." The answer silenced her more than anger would have. Lucan turned to the court. Blood still marked his chest. His command still came fractured. But there was another kind of authority in him now, one that did not need the wolf to carry it. Accountability. "I ordered this trial," he said. "I placed Isolde Varran before the wolf glass because I suspected Severine's reflection. I did not know Isolde had been made the prison. That ignorance does not absolve me." A tremor moved through the hall. Isolde did not look away from him. Good. Let them hear it from him. Let the court know the Alpha King was not asking the mirror to make him innocent. Severine's mouth tightened. "How noble." "Confess after the glass." Forces your hand. Lucan looked at her. "No, before it judges yours." The wolf glass flashed. Aurelia's stolen voice whispered from the broken circlet. "Witness requires answer." Severine's eyes flickered. The priestess stepped back. Isolde understood the rule as soon as the words entered the room. Aurelia had been first witness, but her name alone could not collapse the lunar rite. The one who wore her name had to answer under glass. Isolde turned to Severine. "Did you know my reflection was alive inside your veil?" Severine's face went still. Lucan's jaw tightened. "Answer." This time, his command broke again. But the glass did not. It pulled Severine's reflection forward until the veil behind her stretched thin. Isolde's missing face opened its mouth in silent pain. The sight struck Isolde so sharply she almost stepped forward, but she stopped herself. If she reached too soon, she would give Severine the chance to call it corruption. "Answer as witness," Isolde said. Severine looked at her then with something almost like hatred and almost like envy. "Yes," she said. The hall went cold. Isolde's hands curled at her sills. Severine's voice hardened. "I knew. Not at first. When they placed the veil on me, I thought it was only moon, silver, and right fire. Then it began dreaming. Your face dreamed inside my mirrors. Your mouth moved when I prayed. Your eyes opened whenever Lucan entered a room." Lucan looked ill. Severine turned on him. "Do you know what it is to stand beside a king whose wolf looks through you at someone who has no reflection?" "I wore grace." "Yes. I wore absence. I wore a face the court preferred to mine because mine was never enough without a wolf behind it." Isolde felt no pity, but she felt the shape of the wound. Severine had not been born a monster. She had been handed a method and chosen to keep using it. Aurelia's voice cut through the mirror. "Did you try to free us?" Severine closed her eyes. One breath. "Tfo. No." The broken circlet split further. Silver light poured down Severine's face. Isolde's missing face behind her lifted its eyes. For the first time, it looked directly at Isolde. The connection struck like moonwater through her bones. Not memory yet. Recognition. A self seeing itself across theft. The glass gave Isolde a choice. She felt it without words. She could pull. Her missing reflection would tear loose from Severine's veil. Lucan's wolf might return with it. Severine's lunar right would collapse. The court would see the truth fully. But the girls behind the glass, the ones opened by blood, the ones stripped of names, would remain trapped until later. Maybe forever, if the court moved fast enough to seal the temple after tonight. Or she could open Aurelia's witness deeper first. It would delay her own return. It might give Severine another chance to strike. It would also give every erased girl a path to be named. Lucan saw the choice form on her face. For once he did not ask her to choose him. He did not ask her to choose his wolf. He did not ask her to choose herself, in the way a man might call noble, because it benefited him. He only said, "Whatever you choose, I will answer for the delay." Isolde looked at him. That was almost the right thing. Almost. "You will not answer for my choice," she said. "You will answer for yours." His head lowered once. "Yes." Isolde turned back to the glass. "Aurelia first," she said. Severine's eyes widened. "No." The wolf glass opened beneath Aurelia's hand. Not with blood, with name. The name Aurelia Voss burned across the broken circlet, then leapt into the mirror and struck the faceless girl's reflection like lightning returning to a tree. Her face formed in silver agony eyes. Mouth, brow, tears, fury. Aurelia screamed again, but this time the scream became words. "Beneath the moon court," she cried. "There is a room of borrowed faces." The floor under the altar cracked. A stairway appeared where no stair had been, descending into blue-white darkness lined with mirrors. From below came the sound of hundreds of reflections turning toward the light, and one of them whispered with Isolde's own voice, "Do not come alone." The altar stairs opened wider, and the first mirror below showed Isolde walking down them alone. Not now. Not yet. A warning. In the reflection beneath the cracked floor, she saw herself descending into blue-white darkness with empty hands, silver thread still cutting her wrists, Lucan's wounded wolf behind glass, and Severine's broken circlet burning above like a false moon. The reflected Isolde reached the bottom step. 100 borrowed faces turned toward her. Then the darkness swallowed her reflection whole. Isolde stepped back from the stair. The wolf glass had not threatened her. It had shown consequence. Lucan moved to her side, close enough that she could feel the heat of his blood, not close enough to claim space she had not given him. His chest still bled from the mirror cut. His royal name remained inside the glass. His command was fractured, and every wolf in the court knew it. Still, when he looked down the revealed stair, the air around him changed. Not command. Decision. "I will go," he said. Severine laughed from beneath the broken circlet. "Without your wolf? Without your full name? You would enter the borrowed face room as half an alpha and call that courage?" Lucan did not look at her. "No, I would call it debt." Isolde's throat tightened. Debt was not love, not apology. Not yet. But it was heavier than all the excuses men used when they wanted forgiveness without cost. Aurelia Voss stood inside the wolf glass, her restored face pale with returned pain. One hand pressed against the surface as if the mirror still refused to decide whether she was prisoner or witness. "Do not let him lead," Aurelia said. Lucan's jaw tightened, but he did not argue. Isolde looked at him. He answered before she spoke. "You choose the path. Good." She needed that from him more than protection. The moon court watched, silent and hungry for someone else to decide what truth would cost. Nobles with flickering false soul lines stood near the walls. Priests gathered near the altar, pretending reverence while measuring exits. Severine knelt in torn white, one hand holding the split Luna circlet to her brow, as if she could keep borrowed grace from bleeding out. Isolde faced the stair. "I will go," she said, "but not for your wolf first." Lucan closed his eyes for a breath. When he opened them, pain sat there, honest and unhidden. "For the room, for the girls," he nodded. "For the girls." Severine's voice sharpened. "If she enters that room, the old rites will wake. Every face borrowed by treaty, mercy, and necessity will try to return. You will break half the Luna houses in the north. Isolde turned toward her. Then half the Luna houses were built with stolen faces. Severine stood too quickly. The circlet flared, and she flinched. You speak as if truth feeds children, as if love stops wars, as if wolves do not tear kingdoms apart when bonds are left to instinct. No, Isolde said. I speak as the girl you used so your peace could have a prettier face. The words hit harder than anger. Severine's mouth closed. Isolde walked to the edge of the cracked altar floor. Blue-white light rose from the stair and painted her skin the color of winter moon. Her missing reflection whispered below again, softer now, urgent. Not alone. She looked at the court. Not one noble stepped forward. Of course they did not. Truth was beautiful from a safe distance. It became inconvenient at the stairs. Then Lucan stepped beside her. No command, no crown, no wolf behind him. Only blood, guilt, and the choice to descend where his power could not save him first. A second figure moved. The oldest woman in the court, Lady Mavra of the Northern Pines, came forward with a shaking hand pressed to the black lockmark, now visible beneath her left eye. Her house had flickered with a false soul line when Aurelia screamed. My sister lost her face at 14, Mavra said. They told us she ran into the snow. Her voice broke. If she is below, I will witness her. A priest hissed. My lady, do not implicate your bloodline. Mavra looked at him with old hatred. My bloodline implicated itself when it let a child disappear for alliance. She stepped behind Isolde. Then another came, a young guard whose reflection showed no mouth, a servant boy with prayer scars on his hands, a moon acolyte who removed her veil and revealed a face that trembled out of alignment with her own reflection. Not many. Enough. Severine saw the witnesses forming and moved toward the altar. Lucan caught her wrist. This time he did not command. He held. The glass did not cut him. Severine's eyes widened. Lucan's voice dropped. You will come too, she laughed once. To my own execution? To answer what wears your face. Her expression turned cold. You have no right. No, Isolde said from the stair. But I do. The wolf glass brightened. The broken circlet on Severine's brow tightened and pulled her one unwilling step forward. The name Aurelia Voss glowed across the silver like a hand dragging witness to trial. Severine's breath shook. For the first time, Isolde saw not the graceful Luna, not the chosen lie, but the girl who had accepted another girl's name because power had offered her a way not to vanish. It did not make her innocent. It made her more dangerous. They descended. The stair beneath the moon court was narrow and lined with mirrors instead of stone. Each step reflected a different version of the person walking on it. Isolde as a child with fever-bright eyes. Lucan as a boy without a wolf behind him. Severine with no circlet, no borrowed face, only fear. Lady Mavra with a young girl holding her hand in a reflection that was not there in life. At the bottom, the borrowed face room opened. It was vast, impossible beneath the temple. Mirrors hung from chains in endless rows, each one holding a face that did not belong to the body it had been given to. Some faces slept. Some wept. Some pressed silently against glass. Some had been stretched into veils, some carved into Luna masks, some broken into fragments and sewn across treaty brides who had never known why their reflections cried at night. Isolde's missing face stood in the center, whole enough to resemble her, hollow enough to hurt. Lucan's wolf knelt behind it, chained through the throat to a black mirror root buried in the floor. The wolf lifted its head when Isolde entered, and the room filled with the sound of restraints tightening. Severine whispered, No, not at the wolf. At the mirror root? Isolde followed her gaze. Beneath Lucan's chained wolf, under the black root, something older than the temple breathed. A mirror without glass. A dark oval framed in bone, swallowing every reflection that came too close. Aurelia's voice reached them from above. Thin but clear. The first face is not trapped in the mirrors. The dark oval opened like an eye. It is feeding them. The dark oval beneath Lucan's wolf opened wider, and the borrowed faces began turning toward it like flowers toward a dead sun. Isolde felt the pull before anyone screamed. It touched the hollow place inside her where her reflection should have been, and tugged gently, almost kindly, as if inviting her to stop fighting. The room of mirrors shivered on their chains. A sleeping face woke with a gasp. A bride mask cracked along one cheek. Somewhere in the endless rows, a child's reflection began to cry without sound. Lucan's wolf slammed both front paws against the mirror root. The chains at its throat went white. "Do not feed it," the wolf warned, voice rough through the room. "It does not want your blood. It wants permission." Isolde stood at the edge of the borrowed face room, silver light washing over her skin, and understood the shape of the trap. Blood had opened doors. Names had returned witnesses. But permission given through fear, treaty, obedience, or despair had built the oldest prison of all. Severine took one step back. The broken Luna circlet on her brow flared with Aurelia's name, dragging her forward again. "No," she whispered. "No, I never came here." The dark oval pulsed. A reflection appeared on its surface. A girl not older than 16 knelt before it in a plain white gown. No circlet, no pearls, no graceful smile trained for court. Severine, before she became Severine of the Moon Court. Her hands trembled as priests placed Isolde's stolen reflection veil beside her and Aurelia's name above her head like a crown waiting to close. A voice from the dark oval spoke to her. "Not Alaric's, not a priest's. Older, softer, crueler for its patience. Do you consent to be seen?" Young Severine lifted her head, tears bright in her eyes. "If I refuse, then you remain what you are?" The memory widened. A row of noble girls stood behind Severine, each with wolves shining in their reflections, each watched by mothers, fathers, houses ready to defend them. Young Severine stood alone. No wolf. No house strong enough to protect her. No beauty, then, that the court had not taught her to manufacture through fear. Young Severine looked at the veil. She whispered, "Yes." The dark oval drank the word. In the present, Severine's face twisted. "I was a child." Isolde's voice stayed quiet. So was Aurelia. Severine looked at her then, and hatred was not the only thing in her eyes. Shame lived there too, sharp and useless. Lucan stepped toward the mirror root. The chains around his wolf's throat tightened hard enough to force the beast down. A matching mark burned across Lucan's own neck. He dropped to one knee, one hand braced on the mirror floor. Isolde turned sharply. "Don't force it." "I am not." His voice came rough through clenched teeth. "It is feeding on what my line permitted." The dark oval brightened. Another reflection surfaced. King Alaric stood older than in the temple memory, one hand on the wolf-bone crown, his face carved with the exhaustion of a ruler who had mistaken control for survival. Before him, the dark oval waited. "Do you consent to peace over truth?" Alaric closed his eyes. "Yes." The oval drank. Mirrors across the room shuddered, and dozens of faces blurred as if that single answer had made them easier to steal. Lady Maevra staggered behind Isolde. "Gods. No gods here," Aurelia's voice whispered from the stair above. "Only witnesses no one asked." Isolde looked at the dark oval. "What are you?" The oval did not answer with a name. It answered with hunger. Reflections across the room flashed. Treaty brides saying yes because armies waited at borders. Parents saying yes because one daughter would save 3 sons. Priestesses saying yes because old law had no place for refusal. Kings saying yes because true bonds made politics inconvenient. Each consent had been shaped by threat, polished by ceremony, and fed into the root beneath the wolf glass until the court called the result destiny. The borrowed face room was not powered by theft alone. It was powered by coerced permission. Isolde's stomach turned. The dark oval opened wider. "Do you consent to be whole?" The question entered her like warmth after freezing. Her missing face stood in the center of the room, eyes locked on hers. Lucan's wolf knelt behind it, chained and wounded. If Isolde said yes, perhaps her reflection would return. Perhaps the wolf would return to Lucan. Perhaps the curse mark at her throat would finally stop burning. A simple yes. A beautiful trap. Lucan lifted his head with effort. "Isolde, I know." The oval pressed closer without moving. "Do you consent?" Isolde looked at her missing face, then at Aurelia's name burning on Severine's broken circlet, then at the countless reflections waiting in chains. "No." The room convulsed. The dark oval recoiled as if the word had struck it. Isolde stepped forward. Not until every borrowed face is asked without fear. The mirrors rang. Severine stared at her. You would stay empty? I would stay myself. Lucan's wolf made a sound that was almost a howl and almost a prayer. The chain at its throat cracked once. The dark oval changed tactics. Then choose who remains empty in your place. A mirror near Lady Maevra lit. Inside it, a young girl with Maevra's eyes pressed both hands to the glass. Maevra sobbed her sister's name and reached toward it. Another mirror showed a servant boy's stolen mouth. Another, a bride whose face had been worn by 3 generations of Luna heirs. Every witness in the room saw the one they wanted most. The oval whispered through all of them. One may return now, the rest remain. Pain moved through the room, intimate and precise. That was its genius. Not cruelty shouted from thrones, but mercy rationed until people became willing to betray each other for a single returned face. Severine's gaze fixed on Aurelia's reflection. For one awful heartbeat, Isolde thought she would choose to bury the others again. Instead, Severine laughed once, broken and bitter. That is how it spoke to me. Isolde looked at her. Severine's hands shook at her sides. One face. One name. One chance. Not to vanish. It always offers just enough mercy to make the theft feel like survival. The dark oval pulsed. Silence. False Luna. Severine flinched. Then she lifted her chin. My name is Severine Arlo, she said. And I consented because I was afraid. The borrowed face room went still. Aurelia's name on the circlet burned silver white. Severine reached up and tore the broken circlet from her brow. Skin split. Blood ran down her face. But she held the circlet out to Isolde, not as a crown, not as apology, as evidence. I will answer for what I kept, she said. Her voice trembled. But do not let that thing call fear a choice. Isolde took the circlet. The moment her fingers touched it, her missing face in the center of the room gasped. Lucan's wolf rose behind it despite the chains. The dark oval shrank. Not much. Enough. Isolde understood the next rule. Consent stolen under fear could be revoked under witness. She turned to the mirrors. All of you, she said, voice carrying through the endless rows. If your yes was taken from fear, hunger, debt, threat, loneliness, war, or the hand of someone stronger, take it back. For one breath, nothing moved. Then the borrowed face room erupted in whispers. No, 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 no. 100 mirrors cracked at once. The dark oval screamed without sound. Lucan's wolf tore one chain from its throat, and the force of it knocked Lucan to both knees. He did not command it back. He pressed one bloodied hand to the mirror floor and bowed his head under the cost. The oval lashed out. A black reflection shot toward Isolde, shaped like her missing face but hollow-eyed and hungry, trying to slam itself into her body before the others could be freed. Lucan reached for her. This time, Isolde stepped first. She raised Severine's broken circlet like a blade. I do not consent. The false reflection shattered inches from her chest. Behind it, the dark oval split open, and inside its depth, Isolde saw the first face it had ever swallowed. The face wore the old moon's mark, and it was still alive. The first face inside the dark oval opened its eyes, and every mirror in the borrowed face room went black. Not dark. Blimp. Isolde felt the difference immediately. Darkness could hide. Blindness judged nothing. The endless rows of mirrors no longer showed stolen brides, vanished girls, broken lunas, or hollow reflections waiting to return. They became flat black surfaces, each one reflecting only the shape of the old moon's mark burning at the throat of the woman inside the oval. Her face was not young, though it had once been. Time had not aged it. Hunger had. She looked carved from moonlight, left too long under stone, beautiful in a way that hurt to see, and terrible in a way that made beauty irrelevant. A black-silver crescent marked her throat, identical to the mark Isolde had spent her life being punished for carrying. Isolde's breath caught. The curse had not begun with her. The woman inside the oval looked directly at Isolde. The hollow place where Isolde's reflection should have lived answered with pain so old it felt inherited. Lucan's wolf dragged itself forward, one chain still buried in its throat. It lowered its head to the woman in the oval. not kneeling as it had before Isolde, but recognizing something ancient enough to make even royal beasts go still. Severine stepped back, broken circlet gone from her brow, blood drying along her temple. "Who is she?" Aurelia's voice came faintly from the stair above. "The first girl the glass learned to erase." Isolde looked at the woman's throat again. "No," she whispered. "Not girl." The wolf glass, the room, the blind mirrors, and the old moon mark all seemed to wait for her to finish. Isolde's hands tightened around the broken circlet. "Witness." The woman inside the oval smiled. The expression was small, devastating. At once, the blind mirrors opened into a memory older than the moon court. A forest under a white eclipse. Wolves gathered in a ring around a stone mirror standing upright between two dead trees. At its base knelt the marked woman, younger then, wrists bound with rawhide instead of silver, her reflection bright and whole in the glass. Around her stood the first alpha houses, not yet wearing crowns, not yet calling theft law. A man in a wolf-bone mantle spoke to the gathered packs. "If the glass mate sees every true soul pair, she will undo alliances before we build them." Another answered, "Then blind the witness." The young woman lifted her head, her voice carried through the memory with quiet force. "If you blind me, the glass will learn hunger. It will keep eating until someone asks what was taken." The first alpha struck her. Lucan flinched as if the blow had landed across his own face. Isolde did not. She forced herself to watch. That was the cost now. Not blood. Not name. Witness. The first alpha pressed his hand to the stone mirror. "Do you consent to give your sight for peace?" The young woman laughed once, bitter and clear. A question asked with a knife is not a question. The mirror shuddered. The old packs did not listen. They took her reflection anyway. But because she refused consent, the glass could not make the theft clean. It swallowed her face, her name, her sight, and her witness. But it kept her alive inside its root like a splinter it could never dissolve. Every stolen reflection after her fed the dark oval. Every coerced yes built rooms around her. Every borrowed face buried her deeper. Until Isolde said no. The memory vanished. The woman inside the oval pressed one hand against the inner darkness. Her palm met the barrier with a sound like ice cracking beneath deep water. Lucan pushed himself upright. "How do we free her?" The woman's eyes moved to him. "Do not ask how to free me first." Her voice entered the room without crossing lips. "Ask what I became." The dark oval pulsed violently, as if the question itself wounded it. Isolde understood and hated the answer before it came. "You became the root," she said. The woman closed her eyes. The mirrors trembled. Severine's voice went thin. "If she is the root, freeing her destroys the glass." A priest from the witnesses behind them made a strangled sound. "The wolf glass binds mate law. Without it, northern claims, lunar rights, inheritance trials, will have to survive without eating girls," Isolde said. The priest fell silent. Lucan looked at the dark oval, then at Isolde. "What does it cost?" The question was right. The timing was not. Isolde turned on him. "Not yours to ask first." He accepted the blow without defense. She faced the woman inside the oval. "What does it cost?" The first witness opened her eyes. "A glassmate must stand where the root stood and refuse every stolen yes until the mirror remembers consent." Severine went pale. That would pull every lie through her. "Yes," Isolde said. She did not need the woman to confirm it. She could feel the cost forming in the hollow of her missing reflection. If she stood in the root's place, every coerced yes would pass through her. Every fear disguised as agreement. Every treaty bride who said yes to save a brother. Every girl who wore a stranger's face because hunger made refusal impossible. Every court that called survival consent. It would not kill her quickly. That almost made it worse. Lucan stepped closer, stopping before he touched her. "No." Isolde looked at him. His face was raw with the effort not to command. His wolf strained behind the glass, wounded, half-free, desperate enough to break itself against the remaining chain. Lucan's royal name was still held under witness. His power was fractured. His pride had been stripped. But the word no still came from him like instinct. Isolde waited. His jaw tightened. Then he forced the truth out. "I want to forbid it," he said. "I have no right." "Good." The word hurt him. Good. Let it. Severine looked between them, her bloodied hand still curled where the circlet had been. She cannot stand alone. Isolde's eyes shifted to her. Severine did not look away. Do not mistake me. I am not forgiven. I do not deserve to be near that root. But I know the shape of the lie. I wore it. If coerced consent is the chain, then false grace must answer too. Aurelia's reflection appeared faintly in a nearby blind mirror. Her restored face was pale, but her gaze was steady. She speaks truth. Lucan turned to Severine. You would take part of the cost? Severine's mouth twisted. No, I would return what I kept too long. Isolde studied hair. This was not redemption. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But it was a crack in the method Severine had been handed and chosen to sharpen. A crack could let light through. It could also cut. Not beside me, Isolde said. Severine swallowed. Behind me, Isolde continued. Where I can see your reflection. Severine bowed her head once. Yes, the word shook. But this time, it was not taken from her. Isolde stepped toward the dark oval. Lucan moved with her, but not in front. Beside, far enough that her path remained hers. Close enough that every wolf in the room saw the Alpha King walking into judgment without his command whole, without his wolf restored, without certainty he would leave with power intact. At the edge of the oval, the air was cold enough to burn. The first witness pressed her palm from within. Isolde raised her own hand. Their fingers met through the dark. The hollow place inside Isolde tore open. Every mirror in the room spoke at once. Yes, because they threatened my child. Yes, because my pack was starving. Yes, because my father sold my face. Yes, because the priest said the moon required it. Yes, because the king needed peace. Yes, because no one would come if I screamed. The voices entered Isolde like winter knives. She nearly fell. Lucan caught himself before reaching for her. Severine stepped behind Isolde and faced the nearest black mirror. Her reflection appeared there without veil, without circlet, without borrowed grace. Small, bloodied, afraid. I revoke the yes I used to become Luna, Severine said. A chain snapped. Aurelia cried out above. Not in pain, but release. Lucan placed his bleeding palm against the mirror root, not over Isolde's hand, but beside it. I revoke the yes my crown inherited from Alaric Greyvale. Another chain snapped. His wolf tore free of its muzzle and lifted its head. The dark oval screamed. The first witness's face began to surface through the blackness, and Isolde felt her own reflection stir, not behind Severine now, not inside a veil, but somewhere deep beneath the glass, trying to find its way back without devouring the others. Then the oval changed its final shape. It showed Isolde a single image, her whole reflection standing before her, complete, breathing, beautiful with everything stolen restored. Alone. No other faces. No Aurelia. No first witness. No Lucan's wolf. Only Isolde, whole at last. The offer entered her like warmth. Take yourself back and leave the rest buried. Lucan's wolf snarled. Severine whispered, That is the choice it gave all of us. Isolde stared at her own face. For one heartbeat, she wanted it so badly she hated herself. Then she lifted her chin. No. The mirror root cracked from top to bottom. Isolde stepped into the dark oval with her eyes open, and every stolen reflection stepped in after her. The dark oval did not swallow Isolde. It tried to become her. The moment she stepped through, the borrowed face room vanished. No mirrors, no stair, no moon court above. Only black water beneath her bare feet and a sky of broken reflections turning slowly overhead, each one showing a life that had been bent until it called obedience choice. Isolde stood in the center of it all with the old moon mark burning at her throat. The stolen reflections pressed behind her, not entering her body, not consuming her, but following the path she had opened. Aurelia Voss came first, face restored and eyes silver with pain. Behind her came the first witness, the woman whose refusal had poisoned the glass with hunger because no one had listened when she said no. After them came girls with half-formed faces, treaty brides, silent daughters, acolytes, servants, noble wards, women whose names had been traded, softened, erased, or worn by others, until history forgot the difference between peace and theft. The root spoke from everywhere. Choose one. The black water rose around Isolde's ankles. One face, one life, one return. This is how mercy survives. Isolde looked up. Her own reflection hung above her, whole and luminous, eyes bright, throat unmarked, body untouched by silver thread. It was not cruel. That made it harder. It looked like every dream she had never allowed herself to keep. A face in water. A girl in a mirror. Proof that she had existed. Behind her, Lucan's wolf appeared through the dark, no longer kneeling, but still chained by one final silver line running from its throat into the root. Lucan was not beside it. Not fully. She could feel him outside the oval, palm against the mirror root, bleeding his royal name into witness, so she would not carry the refusal alone. The wolf did not command her. It lowered its head, not in claim, in trust. The root tightened around the reflections. One of the faceless girls cried out as her outline began to blur. Isolde understood. If she hesitated, the root would start taking them back one by one. It did not need her, yes. It only needed her longing to last longer than theirs. She reached toward her perfect reflection. The dark water warmed. The root whispered softer. Take what was yours. Isolde's fingers stopped inches from the glass. No, she said. The perfect reflection cracked. Not because she rejected herself, because she refused the bargain that made her wholeness depend on other girls staying hollow. I take nothing alone. The black water turned white. The first witness stepped beside her and pressed her palm to the crack. Aurelia placed her hand beside it. Severine's reflection appeared behind them, bloodied and bare without the Luna veil, her face her own at last, and shaking under the weight of it. I revoke the grace I wore. Severine whispered. I return the name I kept. I return the face I used. I return the silence I profited from. Aurelia looked at her. There was no forgiveness in her eyes, but there was recognition that the words had been spoken freely. The crack widened. Outside the oval, the borrowed face room reappeared in flashes. Lucan had fallen to one knee, one hand still pressed to the mirror root, the other braced against the floor. The final chain around his wolf's throat had burned into his own neck. Every breath cost him. He did not pull away. A priest shouted from above, Your Majesty, withdraw your name before the glass breaks. Lucan did not look back. If the glass stands by eating them, he said, voice rough, then let it break. The chain at his wolf's throat snapped. The sound split the dark oval. Isolde's perfect reflection shattered into hundreds of pieces, and each piece flew not into her alone, but toward its rightful owner. A mouth returned to a servant boy, a name returned to a bride. A child's eyes returned to a girl whose mother had died believing her lost. Aurelia's full face brightened, not borrowed, not veiled, not trapped under Severine's circlet. The first witness inhaled as if breathing for the first time in centuries. Then Isolde felt her own reflection return, not all at once, carefully. Her face rose before her in the white water, no longer perfect, no longer untouched. It carried the years of absence. It carried the scar at her throat. It carried the pain of being erased and the strength of refusing to become a door for anyone else's hunger. It looked like her. Isolde touched it. The reflection stepped into her. She gasped as cold and light filled the hollow inside her chest. Her knees almost buckled, but this time the emptiness did not swallow her. It closed around something living. Her own breath. Her own face. Her own no. The dark oval screamed. The first witness turned toward the root and spoke the words the old alpha houses had refused to hear. A question asked with a knife is not consent. Every mirror in the borrowed face room shattered outward, not into shards, into doors. Blue-white moonlight burst up through the cracked altar floor. In the moon court above, nobles stumbled back as reflections returned to bodies, names burned across temple records, and false soul lines snapped like rotten thread. Some cried out in grief, some in relief, some in terror as the faces they had worn turned away from them forever. Severine collapsed at the foot of the stair. No circlet, no borrowed grace, no stolen name. Only herself, smaller than the lie she had lived inside. Aurelia emerged from the glass behind Isolde, pale and trembling but whole enough to stand. She looked at Severine for a long moment. "You will answer," Aurelia said. Severine bowed her head. "Yes." This time, the word was not taken. Lucan's wolf stepped through the broken glass. The moon court fell silent as the massive dark wolf crossed the floor and stopped behind Lucan. Its scars still glowed. Its throat still bore the mark of chains. But it stood with him now, not behind a veil, not inside Isolde's absence, not trapped in the old bargain. Lucan rose slowly. His command returned with the wolf. Everyone felt it. He could have used it then. He could have ordered silence, loyalty, obedience, a clean ending. He could have made the court kneel and called it justice. Instead, he removed his hand from the mirror root and lowered his head before Isolde. Not to claim her, to witness her. "I used your pain to expose a lie," he said. "I cannot make that righteous, because the lie was real." Isolde looked at him, her reflection whole behind her at last. "No," she said. "You cannot." His jaw tightened, accepting it. "The throne will answer," he said. "My father's laws, the temple rites, every Luna bond made through stolen reflection." "And you?" she asked. His wolf lowered its head beside him. Lucan's voice was quiet. "Me first." That was the only answer she could bear. Dawn touched the moon court through the high windows. The wolf glass no longer stood as one towering judge. It had become 1,000 open panes, each reflecting only those who chose to stand before them. The first witness faded into the old moonlight, not dead, not erased, but released from being root and prison. Aurelia remained, hand pressed over her own name. Severine knelt under guard, unadorned and shaking. Isolde stepped away from the altar. No silver thread held her wrists. No missing face hovered behind another woman. Lucan did not follow until she looked back. Even then, he stopped at a respectful distance. "I cannot ask you to stay," he said. "No," Isolde answered. "You cannot." The truth hurt them both, but it did not close the space between them. She looked at his wolf, at the scars around its throat, at the way it watched her, not as a possession, not as a mate to claim, but as the girl who had refused to free herself by abandoning the others. Then she looked at Lucan. "I will stay until every stolen reflection is named," she said. "After that, I choose again." Hope moved across his face, restrained by guilt. "I will wait for the choice." Isolde almost smiled. Almost. She turned toward the first open pane of the broken wolf glass and saw herself clearly. Not cursed, not hollow, not a door. A girl with her own reflection looking back. Behind her, Lucan's wolf lowered its head, not kneeling this time, not begging, not claiming, guarding. And for the first time in the moon court, the mirror did not decide who she was. She did.